Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 924. 924. October the 12th, 2019, Saturday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get to the news of the day. First of all, let's talk about that Trump rally last night in Minnesota. Truly got to be one of the best rallies I've ever seen, and Trump was totally all guns blazing last night. He was not holding back at all. I have to say my favorite line from last night was when he said that Biden was only good because he understood how to kiss Barack Obama's ass. Man, when he said that, I just thought to myself, did he just say that? Did he really just say that? But if you watch the whole speech, it was a pretty long speech. And it wasn't so much of a speech, it's just Trump at a rally. I mean, it really goes off the cuff a lot. But he hit everyone last night that you would want to hit. He went after Omar. He's like, yeah, she's married to her brother. I mean, he just went down the line, and he especially was devastating to Hunter and Joe Biden. And he spent about 15 minutes on that. And I was just thinking to myself as I was watching him, I mean, he was just going for the jugular on every point on Hunter Biden. He was pulling no punches whatsoever, none. The same with Joe Biden. And I'm just thinking as I'm watching that, I'm going, man, can you imagine Joe Biden on stage with Trump, how that's going to go? Because one thing Trump can do, he can very quickly rattle this stuff off. And really, you know, he speaks well when he's doing that. When he's going off the cuff and he's going from just things he knows and going just from the gut, I mean, he really lays out a strong case for what he's saying. And of course, if you look at Joe Biden, the complete contrast, we can see that when you watch Biden, whenever Biden gets cornered or gets pressured, that's when he kind of freezes up a bit, and then he in an effort to try to make his point, whenever he gets rushed or excited or overexercised, that's when he makes his gaffes. That's when he starts tripping over his words. His words don't come out right. His teeth start sliding around in his head. He starts having various reactions. He says crazy things. When he gets rattled, that's when he loses his cool. That's when he makes his gaffes and his mistakes. And if you watch Trump, you can see that in a 2-hour debate, Biden would spend 90% of that debate completely. Trump would have Biden completely worked up for the entire time. So what you would get is 2 hours of Biden at his worst. He will never be able to respond as quickly as Trump. He will be stammering over his words. He'll be making gaffes. It will just be brutal. And so I'm thinking as I'm watching this, I'm going, man, can you imagine if Biden was on stage right now trying to deal with Trump? I mean, it's like Trump's greatest strength is at the same time Biden's greatest weakness. And the absolute worst person, I think, in the entire Democratic field that you could put up against Trump is Biden. Trump's strength is Biden's greatest weakness, and it's going to be crazy. Again, I don't think Biden will be the nominee. I really don't. I've thought that for quite a while. But in the event that should happen, because anything is possible, in the event that should happen, it's going to be ugly. And, you know, I was thinking also, you know, man, what are these people? Because, you know, Biden's campaign staff are watching the speech because they want to find things that they can use for talking points against Trump. And, of course, he gave them plenty, right? So you have to think, though, if you're one of the people on Biden's campaign who watch him every day and are quite aware of his, you know, various areas of vulnerability and his areas of shortcomings, if you're on the Biden campaign and you're one of those staffers watching Trump, even they have to be saying to themselves, oh my God, this guy's going to murder us, man. This guy's going to crucify us. We have no chance. You know, Biden can't take this guy. It's just, he can't. It's not even close. It will be a TKO in the first round. I mean, it might be so bad that they might cancel the debate halfway through, realizing it's just not a competition, and cancel the remaining debates. It's just, that's how bad it is. People will not even want to sit and watch somebody get destroyed that badly. But it was a great rally, and in fact, he's in Louisiana tonight. It's just amazing that he can work all day, go to a fairly late evening rally like that, have all that energy, and then turn around the very next day, get up in the morning, have tough meetings with the Chinese, and do his thing, and then he's right back out the very next night in Louisiana at another place. I mean, you know, a guy his age, I mean, he's not like 40 or something. I mean, he's close to, you know, 70 years old, but he seems to have this energy, and I don't know where he gets it, but it's just he's incredible. I mean, he's got tiger blood, man. He's got tiger blood, and I picked up a couple things also last night. Just the overall tone of his you know, rally. You would think that the guy was sitting at 70% in the polls, and that everything was hunky dory, and that everything was great. You would never know that this is a guy who's currently got the entire deep state trying to take him out in the coup. He's got the demo commies, the kamikaze demo commies, trying to take him out in a coup through a false impeachment process, a faux impeachment process, I should say. I mean, you would never know it by watching his rallies. The reality in his rallies with his supporters and with Trump himself doesn't really reflect what's happening inside the swamp. You know, D.C., the District of Criminals. Inside the District of Criminals, where the media is and where all the Democrats are and the deep state, where all they all reside, it's a completely different world. But once he gets outside of the swamp, that world is the reality in his mind. And what's going on in the swamp is just a problem he has to deal with. And I'll tell you something else last night that I noticed. He talked about the coup, and he talked about everything that was going on and what's been done since the day he, you know, was elected. And there was a point there where he's talking about it, and he said, you know, I think he was trying to reassure his audience and his supporters who are watching, hey, you know, don't let this stuff get to you, all the stuff that's going on, because essentially what he said is we are going to expose their crimes, we're going to expose their plots, and so don't worry, it's all going to be exposed. So there's something that tells me, when I heard him say that, that tells me why he feels so confident to go out and continue doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. Because you would think that a president who's under this much scrutiny, currently there's this faux impeachment thing going on, he's got the deep state after him, you would think that he would be walking on eggshells, trying to be very careful not to provide any more ammunition. But he's doing just the opposite. In fact, he's ratcheting it up. He's providing more fuel, essentially, to ratchet things up even further by really going to the jugular in attacking his adversaries, I guess we would say. And this shows you that this is a guy who's not afraid or intimidated. And that has to be something that the demo commies and the deep state has to make them very nervous, because they have to be looking at Trump right now and going, man, normally the average enemy of the deep state that we would take on, we would have destroyed them by now. We would have driven them out of office. We would have destroyed them by now. They would have capitulated. They would have backed down. Not this guy. This guy keeps coming. The harder you hit him, the more he comes back at you, and the harder he hits you back. So they are discovering, the deep state and the demo commies, that they're dealing with someone who they cannot intimidate, and someone who, quite honestly, has the goods on them. And he certainly gave that, it wasn't that subtle, really. I mean, he came out and said it. It wasn't like he subtly suggested. No, he came out and said, we are going to expose the corruption, we are going to drain the swamp, and we are going to expose the plots that are going on. And he said the plots that are going on, and he was talking in at that time, and what got him into this talking about that was talking about what's going on now, as if it's not just the fake Russia Trump collusion. It's not just the that Uncle Bob thing that went on. It's not just the obstruction thing. It's not just all that stuff. He's actually talking about the contemporaneous events occurring now as well are going to be exposed. In other words, almost like he's happy that the Democrats are doing all the stuff they're doing, because they're essentially, this is all being cataloged and noted as part of this investigation, that this is all part of the things that they're doing now. This faux impeachment hearing is part of an overall plot, And this overall plot is what's being investigated. And this is what he says is going to be exposed. And he's talking about contemporaneous events, things that are occurring now, not just the things that occurred in the past. Almost like, yep, keep it coming, because this is all going into the investigation, which we are going to show you is going to take you down. So, you know, I feel pretty good about that because, you know, I'm pretty sure that Barr is a straight shooter. I'm pretty sure Durham is a straight shooter. I'm pretty sure they're going to, you know, expose the plot and the criminal conspiracy and the whole 9 yards. You know, but you always have to still allow for that possibility because of the deep state, and we know how the deep state is and how deep the corruption goes, that this could just as easily, again, I give this a very small percentage, but it's something you have to consider, even in a small percentage, that Barr and Durham could simply be part of the deep state. They could be saying, yeah, we're going to have this investigation and drag it out and drag it out and drag it out and drag it out, and so that they never get to the bottom of it until the next election comes around, by which time maybe they allow something to take Trump out before he gets reelected. And then we never get to the bottom of it because someone else comes in and the investigations are shut down. So I think there's about a 2% chance that that's possible. I think it's about 98% at this point that Barr and Durham are the real deal, and they are working to get to the bottom of it, and likely will. And you know, Trump talks to his attorney general. He talks to Barr, so I think Trump's a good enough probably at reading people that if Barr was suspect, if Trump didn't have a lot of confidence in him, he wouldn't. I don't think he would go out and pretend that he does. I don't think Trump would fake that. We saw when he had Sessions, when he had Rodenstein, he wasn't out there praising either of them, that's for sure. In fact, he was ripping Sessions on a daily basis. And Rodenstein, he never had a lot good to say about him. So, you know, I think my overall take on last night was very positive. That he certainly he went after people, which shows that he's not intimidated. He's quadrupling down on everything. He made it perfectly clear and sent a message to the Democrats and to Biden that, you know, are you sure you want to be the nominee and take me on? Because this is what you're going to get. This is just a taste of what I'm going to do to you when I get you up on a stage. And so, if anything, Biden would be intimidated. And the Democrats thinking, man, Biden's not the guy to take on Trump. We got to find somebody who can take on someone like this, and it ain't Biden. So I think he put the fear of into a lot of Democrats last night, the way that he demonstrated that he will go for the jugular, and he'll probably go even harder when Biden's actually on the stage with him. And of course, I think he gave a certain amount of confidence last night that we all need to kind of keep the faith that they are going to expose these plots. And keep in mind, he talks to his attorney general probably pretty regularly, so he's probably getting updates on the investigation and what the overall timeline is for when they can hope to get this done. And my guess is Barr has given him some assurance that they are going to have their investigation out in the public, so probably before the general election starts, which would be in the late spring of next year. So I think that that's the general impression that I get from his speech last night. Very, very positive, I thought. And yeah, I mean, it's just... It's almost so good you want to go back and watch it again. I've watched a couple of the clips several times. I've shown a buddy of mine at work this morning that clip where he said that Biden was good at kissing Obama's ass, and his buddy of mine just cracked up laughing. And he's kind of a liberal, but he's not a Trump hater. But he's kind of a Democrat or whatever, but doesn't follow politics real closely. But even he thought that was thoroughly entertaining, and so. Anyway, yeah, it was a great time, and I'm sure if you were in Minnesota last night, if you were at that debate, it was pretty awesome to have been there. And you can see that even with everything that's going on, the enthusiasm for Trump, his support for Trump, doesn't seem to drop. We keep getting these polls showing, 50% of the people support impeachment, and his poll numbers are down or whatever. But then you look at these rallies, you talk to people every day. If you live in like a red state like I do, I don't see anybody who supported Trump losing support for him. I don't see anybody who voted Trump saying, yeah, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have voted for Trump. I don't hear any of that ever from anybody. So I think we're getting a lot of fake news, and a lot of things that we probably would be better off to ignore and just keep our eye on the ball, and what we actually feel in our gut is happening, because that's probably closer to the truth than what we get from the mainstream corporate media. Alrighty, coming from the Washington Examiner. The Washington Examiner. Adam Schiff, the bug-eyed fool, recruited 2 former NSC aides. These aides worked alongside the CIA so-called whistleblower at the NSC during the Obama and Trump administration. The 2 people we're talking about here are Abigail Grace and Sean Misko. They are the 2 rats who are now working as aides to Adam the Bug-Eyed Fool Schiff on the House Intelligence Committee. Grace was hired in February. Misko was hired in August, which is the exact same month that the whistleblower made the complaint, the so-called whistleblower. So, when you combine this, along with everything else that we've learned at this point about the relationship between the bug-eyed fool and the so-called whistleblower and other whistleblowers and everything else, it just seems to me it's almost mind-boggling that Schiff could still be the head of this committee and not have been forced to, at the very least, recuse himself from this particular so-called impeachment inquiry. He is literally, I mean, the entire plot. He is the chairman of the committee holding the hearings, but yet he was involved from the very beginning with the alleged whistleblower, so-called whistleblower, and he's got people who he recruited from the NSC who were in that same group with the so-called whistleblower, who he has recruited to be on his staff. His staff is briefing this whistleblower before he even went to the Attorney General. We have Adam the Bug-Eyed Fool himself and a staff member going over to Ukraine. I mean, Adam the Bug-Eyed Fool is literally a part of this whole. He's a part. He's a player in the scheme. Yet he's overseeing it. I mean, this is just ridiculous. This could never pass muster. Mitch McConnell, Twitch, needs to come out, now that we know all this, he just needs to come out and make a statement, a very firm statement, and say, look, don't send us your articles of impeachment, because they are dead on arrival. As soon as you send them over here, I'm rejecting them. Because you cannot have all this go on, and then he needs to lay this out, why this is a complete show, and why it's not going to fly. It's not going to be taken seriously by the body that actually performs the trial. They're not even going to bother. That this is a complete exercise in stupidity and idiocracy, and that they're not even going to entertain it in the Senate. That's what McConnell needs to do. He needs to shut it down right now, and he can do that. Say, hey, you can go ahead and have your vote, your articles. I'm telling you, the way that this was conducted is not going to fly. As soon as you send his articles over, I'm killing it right on the spot. There won't be a single hearing. There won't be anything brought forward. So go ahead and play your games, but just know that what you're doing, the way that you're doing it, it's dead on arrival. Period. The hearings will not happen. Just based on what we know now about how this is being conducted and the fact that the person leading it, the bug-eyed fool, is completely compromised and shouldn't be in any way, shape, or form involved. He's a witness. He's in the chain of custody. He's a part of the scheme. McConnell needs to shoot this down, and he doesn't even need to wait. And that's exactly what he should do. And of course, we have the Gateway Pundit reporting that there are now rumors, and again, I talked about this the other day, that there are more whistleblowers, anti-Trump whistleblowers coming forward. Well, if it has anything to do with this conversation with the Ukrainian PM, it doesn't matter. The transcript was released. There's nothing there. So maybe it's other things. What would that be? They don't like his foreign policy. They don't like his humor. They don't like his whatever. Doesn't matter. It's not the role of intelligence officials or people working at the NSC assigned to the White House. This is not their role. Not at all. And someone needs to put the kibosh on this. Someone needs to put the kibosh on this. So, like I said a couple videos ago, I have no doubt that they have 20, 30, 40, 50 whistleblowers. You name it. They'll just keep coming, because the strategy is, as I said, the strategy is to simply throw mud at the wall, as much mud as they can throw, and see what sticks. And it's going to go on day after day after day after day until Trump wins re-election in 2020. And if the Democrats control the House and still control the House after that, they'll continue it on. Now, if they lose the House, they will not be able to manufacture these types of things with whistleblowers. They can be dealt with by the committee heads, which would be Republicans, and they would expose these fake whistleblowers and these fake complaints. They would expose them before they ever, got any traction. So we have to hope that we take back the House in 2020. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they got tons of people, especially since we find out that the Democrat activist law firm is actually out recruiting people and paying them. And of course, we had John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, in that tweet about 2 weeks ago, basically signaling that everybody in the intelligence community should now come out and blow the whistle on Trump because they disagree with his foreign policy. So, again, it's frustrating to watch as this plays itself out day after day, but, watching the president up in Minneapolis last night, he actually said at one point in the speech, made me feel better, he actually said, I actually enjoy this, So, I mean, as frustrating as it is for all of us, and I'm sure it frustrates him too, the president, as you can see, he's saying, hey, I actually enjoy this kind of stuff. So, I don't think I would enjoy it. Not at all. I wouldn't enjoy it at all. I'd be madder than mad as I could be, and I'd be wanting to get after these people every way that I could. I don't think I could have the patience that Trump has got. And I know I wouldn't enjoy it. But, it's true. He might actually enjoy this stuff. I mean, he might. He likes the chaos. We know he likes the give and take. We know he likes the all this stuff. He seems to enjoy it. And he's saying last night that, I actually enjoyed the stuff. So, and I actually think as far as impeachment's concerned, he hopes they do it. He really hopes they do it. He really thinks it's a big win, and so do I, by the way. He's extraordinary. There's no question. I cannot think of another single person that I can think of that could withstand what he has withstood and still not just be standing, but standing tall and proud and smiling and laughing and making jokes and having a hell of a good time. I mean, he's extraordinary, man. Extraordinary. Yes, and then we learned, of course, this came out late last night. I saw this on Conservative Treehouse probably around 7, 8 o'clock last night, that the whistleblower now wants to submit answers to written questions. He doesn't even want to testify, even though they're going to disguise his appearance, his or her appearance, disguise the voice, the appearance, the whole 9 yards. Now, going one step farther, doesn't even want to do that. Just wants to answer written questions. Written questions. Now, what does this tell us? Well, it's very simple. For whatever reason, the so-called whistleblower, the deep state, Adam the Bug-Eyed Fool, Madam Botox, for whatever reason, they are desperate to protect the identity of this person. Now, and so is the media on the left. Now, the Democrats and the left-wing media have clearly demonstrated they don't care about exposing the names and identities of whistleblowers. They do it all the time. They didn't care anything about Snowden or Assange or any of the other whistleblowers who've come out. Kevin Shep, Bill Binney, many whistleblowers that come out. And the left, the demis, the left-wing media, they're happy if they can ever get the name of the person. They're happy to expose them. But for some reason, everyone on the left, everyone involved in this particular plot, is going to unbelievable lengths to protect the identity of this person. Why? Why don't they want us to know the identity of this person? And it's not because of this person's safety. That's ridiculous. Lots of whistleblowers come forward and they go public. they're generally a whistleblower, someone blowing the whistle on a powerful entity, either the government or some big corporation. And they're typically viewed as being a hero. But not in this case. No, in fact, in this case, they want to make this person out to be a hero for blowing the whistle on Trump, but this hero, they want to keep completely protected. Why is that? Clearly, they do not want us to know who this person is. Now, we've already learned that he's obviously was close to Biden, worked with Biden, was part of the National Security Council, the intelligence community, traveled with Biden. Biden was the point man on Ukraine. This person apparently was with Biden on at least one trip to Ukraine. His issue is with a phone call Trump had with someone in Ukraine. We know that this Inspector General actually was part of the coup plot. In 2016, he was in Ukraine trying to dig up dirt on Trump. Every one of the people involved here are connected to either Schiff and his committee or the deep state or Ukraine on the other side. So clearly, they're wanting to circle the wagons and protect everyone in this little cabal who's behind this latest plot, which I have no doubt is a complete plot, cooked up with the bug-eyed fool, Madame Botox, some corrupt intelligence people, some deep staters. This is just another plot, right? But yeah, when they want to work this hard to protect a whistleblower, and the idea that, that he's not going to appear and it's just going to be written questions, I don't think so. I mean, we'll have to hear Lindsey Graham comment on that because he's the one who's talking about having the hearings in the Senate, and that's where it actually should be happening. I would be very, very surprised if Lindsey Graham would go along with this. Even Lindsey Graham, and I'm not a huge Lindsey Graham fan, but even Lindsey Graham would not bite on something this ridiculous. This is really stupid, by the way. I mean, this is not... I can't imagine I would even throw this out there and think that the Republicans or Lindsey Graham or anybody in the Senate who heads those committees over there or the general public would look at this and not think that there's something going on here. No one tries that hard to protect a whistleblower. If he's such a hero, then he should come out. But I think we'll find out that this guy, whoever this person, this so-called whistleblower is, they're connected, they're deep state, they're dirty as hell, and they're part of a plot. And that's why they're trying to protect this person. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's just a matter of time before this person's identity comes out. Because there's too much that's known about them now. So we already have a limited number of people who could fit the description of everything we know. And I think it's just a matter of time before somebody sniffs this out or leaks it. Well, we have John Solomon telling Lou Dobbs that he has evidence that Maria Yovanovitch has links to a radical group named Anti-Corruption Action Center, short abbreviation, they're known as ANTAC, A-N-T-A-C. And this, of course, is a George Soros-backed and funded group. Sure, I think we already knew that this corrupt ambassador was part of this Soros group. This actually come out before. These details are more specific, and he may have documents now to back it up. But this was floated back when we first heard her name, when she was back in May, when she was booted from her position as ambassador. Now, as we're talking about this, she went for hearings today with the Bug-Eyed Fools Committee. Republicans were there too to ask questions. So you can expect that by the time you watch this video, the Bug-Eyed Fool will have already selectively leaked certain things from her testimony. Certain things. You'll never hear any of the stuff that she's caught on by the Republicans. You'll only get the stuff because we know she wanted to testify. We know she's an anti-Trumper, and we know she has a beef with her being fired or removed from her position as ambassador. And of course, we had the reports already that she was spying on Solomon, another journalist. She was talking trash about Trump and his administration. She was a pro-Hillary person in 2016. She was meeting with Ukrainian officials, telling them to ignore Trump and his policies, that he was going to be impeached, these types of things. So she's a bad apple, obviously, that should have been removed a long time ago. She should be actually fired from the government completely. She shouldn't even have a job in the federal government right now. I think that her behavior was seditious, and I think she should be charged with sedition. But somehow she got removed from her position as ambassador, but she maintained a job in the State Department, which is just beyond me how that can occur. Only in the federal government can that occur, because it's nearly impossible to fire a federal government employee. That's the problem. Trump needs to change the rules there the same way he did for the Veterans Administration to make it possible that we can actually fire bad, corrupt federal government employees. And in the case of this woman should be charged with treason, or at least sedition at the very least. So you can expect by this time tomorrow, as you're watching this video, the leaks will be coming out from the committee about all the nasty things that she said about Trump, none of which will be impeachable at all. It's just the opportunity to sling more mud. Throw as much mud as you can against the wall and see what sticks. And just do it day after day after day after day, so that at some point in the presidential campaign, Democrats can look and say, see what condition the country is in. It's divided. We have all this hate going on. Our political system's a mess. Everything's been turned upside down. It's pure chaos all the time. And it's all because of Trump. When in fact, it's the demo commies and the left-wing hate Trump media that is behind creating all the consternation and chaos, so that they can then later say that Trump is the cause of it. You see, that's the plan. So, fortunately, I think most people are too smart to be fooled by this stunt, and I think that God willing, people are paying attention and they're aware of exactly what's going on. And in 2020, we'll see hopefully something wonderful. Well, speaking of something wonderful, Shep Smith is leaving Fox. Shep Smith is leaving Fox. I think Trump drove him out. Now, on his last broadcast, he said that it was his decision to leave and that they actually tried to get him to stay. And he said, no, I'm leaving. You can probably expect to see him pop up on CNN or MSNBC, probably. Now, his ratings weren't all that good at Fox. So, yes, I'm happy to see him go. There's several others I would like to see go right along with him. Neil Cavuto will be my next pick. He should definitely be leaving. They got a couple weekend anchors that should be leaving as well. Well, what do you know? Liawatha, Elizabeth Warren, she is saying that one of the things she wants to do when she becomes president, she says, is to change the policy so that what she thinks she could do by executive order, which I don't know if she can or not. I don't think so. I think there will be major challenges in court to this. But she wants to force prison systems to allow mixed-sex inmates, that people should be sent to either a men's, women, or a women's prison, not based on their gender identity, but rather based on their biological, that she wants people to be able to go to either a men's or women's prison based on their gender identity, not their biological sex. In other words, a man claiming to be a woman could go to a woman's prison. A woman claiming to be a man could go to a man's prison. She also wants people who are convicts to be able to request a sex change if they want to change sexes, and that she said that the taxpayers absolutely should pay for that. If you campaign on this, if you seriously go out and campaign on this, or if you're in a national debate, I can't imagine that if she did win the nomination and she was in the general election, this has got to be purely for the primaries. She can't possibly think that she's going to go out in the general election and try to make this case. This is a loser. It's a big loser. Nobody in their right mind would go along with something like this. It's insanity. That's what we're dealing with. We are dealing with insanity. Maybe it's why it's driving us all nuts. Finally, we have the Business Insider reporting that William Barr was told by Stephen Rowe, Mifsud's lawyer, that Mifsud is now being represented by a law firm in London. And Mifsud's daughter, of course, lives in London. Both of his ex-wives live in Malta. How about that? Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. See you. Bye.